The fog sat low over the village, thick enough to dull sound. The mountains around it looked closer than they should, like they had leaned in to watch. The antiques shop stood at the end of the main road, its wooden sign crooked, its windows clouded with age. Inside, the old man was still there. He sat on a thin cushion behind the counter. His back was straight. His eyes were open, dry and calm. His hands rested on his knees, palms down, fingers together. He looked like someone waiting for a guest who never arrived. No blood, no signs of struggle. The police photos were still pinned to the wall when the archivist arrived 3 days later. Black and white images showing the shop from every angle. The body, the floor, the spot beneath the counter where the boards had been pulled up. The archivist stood alone in the doorway for a moment, listening. The shop smelled of dust, old paper, and something faintly sweet. Dried herbs hung from the ceiling beams. Wind chimes were tied near the back window, tapping softly though the air was still. They stepped inside and bowed once, out of habit, to the empty room. The villagers had not followed them in. They never did. They watched from across the road or from behind half-closed doors, their faces blank, their eyes alert. When asked about the shop owner, they said only, he lived alone. When asked how he died, they said, he stopped breathing. When asked about the box, they said nothing at first. Then one woman, her hair pulled tight and grey at the roots, said quietly, "It listens." That was the only word they used. The box lay on a low table in the storage room at the back. It was smaller than expected, about the size of a shoebox, made of dark wood, worn smooth at the edges. White ritual paper was wrapped around it, yellowed with age, tied with thin red string. The archivist did not touch it yet. They circled the table slowly. The overhead bulb flickered, buzzing softly. The box had marks along one side, long, uneven scratches. Fingernail marks, the police report said, pressed hard enough to leave deep lines in the wood. The archivist wrote this down in a notebook with careful handwriting. They had been sent by the regional cultural office. Their job was to catalogue objects of historical value, folk items, ritual, tools, things that had no clear place in museums but could not be thrown away. They preferred quiet work, paper, shelves, rooms, where nothing looked back at them. This village did not feel quiet. That evening, the fog thickened. The archivist stayed in the small room above the shop where the old man had slept. The bed was neatly made. His clothes still hung by the door. Everything smelled faintly of smoke and dried tea leaves. From the window, the archivist could see the road empty out as the sun fell. One by one, doors closed, too gently. No voices, no dogs. Even the insects were quiet. They heated a small pot of rice and ate in silence. Later, while writing notes by the dim desk lamp, they heard it tap that it came from below. Soft wood against wood. The archivist froze, pen hovering above the page. Tap tap, dot slow. Patient, they waited. Counted their breaths. The sound stopped. They did not go downstairs. Sleep came in pieces. Short, shallow stretches, broken by dreams of hands pressing against thin walls. Wood bending. Air running out. In the morning, the fog had not lifted. The fog had not lifted. The Archivist went down to the storage room after breakfast. The door creaked louder than it should. The overhead bulb flickered again. Before settling, the box sat on the table. It looked the same, and yet the archivist stopped a few steps away. The table had been pushed closer to the door, only a little, enough that the corner now lined up with a crack in the floorboards the archivist did not remember seeing before. They checked the floor. The marks were old, deep grooves where the boards had been lifted days earlier by the police. Nothing else. Still, the feeling stayed. They measured the distance with their steps, wrote it down, took photos. A village elder came by near noon. He stood in the doorway and did not enter. "You should finish quickly," he said. "I will," the archivist replied. The elder's eyes shifted past them, toward the storage room. He swallowed. "It does not like long stays," he said. "What does?" the archivist asked. The elder bowed his head slightly. "Please don't open it today." Then he left. That night, the tapping returned. This time, it was louder. Tap, 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 3 knocks. A pause, then 3 more. The archivist sat up in bed, heart pounding. The sound came from directly below. From the storage room, they wrapped a jacket around their shoulders and went downstairs, each step careful. Slowed dot. The storage room door stood closed. The tapping stopped. The archivist stood there for a long time, hand on the door handle. The wood felt warm. They did not open it. In the morning, the box had moved again. Just a few inches. Closer to the door, the archivist's notes became more detailed after that. Times, distances, sounds. They avoided writing thoughts. Only facts. The villagers stopped speaking to them entirely. On the 4th day, a child left a bundle of rice cakes at the shop entrance and ran away. No note, no name. That night, the archivist dreamed of sitting inside a small wooden space. Knees pulled to chest, fingertips raw and broken. Outside, voices argued in low tones. Someone cried. Someone said it would be quick. The archivist woke with their hands clenched so tight their nails had cut skin. Tap, tap, dot closer now. By morning, the box stood directly in front of the storage room door, blocking it. The archivist stared at it, breath shallow. The box had not opened. The strings were still tied, the paper intact. But the scratches looked deeper, as if they had just been made. The archivist knelt and bowed to it, unsure why, only knowing. It felt wrong not to. The shop was no longer empty. Something had been disturbed, something that had waited a very long time, and it was listening. Rain began before dawn and did not stop. It slid down the roof in thin lines, tapped at the windows, soaked the dirt road until it turned dark and soft. The mountains disappeared behind grey sheets of water. The village felt smaller, pressed down by the sky. The archivists wrapped their coat tighter and stepped outside. The shop door closed behind them with a quiet click that sounded too loud in the empty street. They had a list of names, people old enough to remember things the village no longer spoke about. The first house belonged to a fisherman. He sat near the doorway, fixing a net with slow hands. He did not invite the archivist inside. "You knew the shop owner?" the archivist asked. The man nodded once. "Did he ever speak about the box?" The fisherman's hands paused. Rain dripped from the roof between them. "Some things," he said, then stopped. "Like what?" He shook his head and went back to the net. The conversation was over. At the next house, a woman answered, but kept the door half closed. When the archivist asked about the object, she looked past them, down the road. "It should not be touched," she said. "Why?" Her mouth opened. No sound came out. She closed the door gently, as if not to wake someone sleeping inside. By midday, the archivist's shoes were soaked. Their notebook was heavy with short lines that led nowhere. Only one person let them in. Shaman's widow lived at the edge of the village, where the road met a field of wet grass and old stones. Smoke drifted from her chimney. Inside, the air smelled of herbs and damp wood. She poured tea into chipped cups. Her hand shook. "You found it," she said, not looking up. "Yes," she nodded. "Then it has woken." The archivist waited. "There was another one," the widow said. "Long ago. Before the new road. Before the clinic." "What happened?" Her eyes moved to the floor. People forgot. Or tried to. The rain grew louder against the roof. During the famine, she said, things were buried that should not have been. Not deep enough. She reached under the table and pulled out a small stone rubbing. Faded lines cut into its surface. A symbol shaped like a closed eye, crossed by a line. The archivist felt a chill. "It was never meant to be owned," the widow said, only kept quiet. "What does it do?" She looked up then. Her eyes were wet, sharp. "It listens," she said, "and it remembers for us." When the archivist returned to the shop, the rain had darkened the wood of the walls. Water dripped from the eaves in steady beats. Inside, the box felt different. The room was warmer. Not hot, just enough to notice the archivist held their hands. Above the lid, not touching, heat rose from it, faint but real, like breath under a blanket. They pulled their hand back fast. That evening, they sat at the desk to write notes. The pen paused mid-sentence. The room was quiet, too quiet. They looked up. The lamp still burned. The clock ticked. The cup of tea beside them was cold. They could not remember stopping. They looked at the page. Several lines had been written below. Their last note. The handwriting was careful but unfamiliar. Tighter, pressed hard enough to mark the paper beneath. It read, "Do not leave me alone." The archivist's chest tightened. They tore the page out, folded it, and put it in their pocket. That night, sleep came quickly and wrong. They stood in a field under dark soil. Hands pushed up around them. Fingers broke through the dirt, pale and shaking. Mouths opened without sound. The smell of earth filled their nose. "I'm sorry," the mouths said together. The archivist woke with a sharp breath. The words stayed, with them echoing. "I'm sorry." The knocking did not come that night. Instead, there was warmth. A slow, steady presence, like someone sitting just outside the door. Morning light filtered through the fog. The rain had eased, but the ground still steamed. The archivist went to the storage. Room. The box sat in the same place as the night before, but the paper wrapping had loosened. One corner peeled back, just enough to show the wood beneath. They noticed something new. The underside. The archivist tilted the box carefully, just enough to see beneath it. Their fingers brushed the wood. It felt alive, not moving, just warm. A carved symbol stared back at them, a closed eye, crossed by a line, the same as the stone rubbing. The archivist straightened slowly. Their breath sounded loud in the small room. Later, they walked to the village graveyard. Rainwater pooled between stones. Names were carved deep, worn smooth by time. They knelt beside the oldest markers. There it was, the same symbol, cut small at the base of several stones. Easy to miss. Hidden, unless you looked close. The archivist traced one with their finger. Cold stone. Wet moss. This was not a mark of death. It was a mark of memory. That afternoon, time slipped again. The archivist stood in the storage room, holding the notebook. The next moment, they were outside, rain on their face, the notebook closed. 3 pages were filled. They did not remember writing them. The words described hunger. Cold, a choice made in whispers. A box pressed into the ground while someone cried. The last line read, "Someone must remember so the others can live." The archivist sat on the shop steps as the light faded. The village stayed silent. No one came close. The box waited behind the door. It was not angry, not cruel. It was full of voices, of names no one spoke, of hands reaching up, asking not to be forgotten. The archivist understood now. This was not a curse meant to kill. It was a weight meant to be carried, and the longer it stayed unburied, the louder it would become. That night, as the fog rolled back, the archivists placed their palm against the storage room door. Warm, steady, not listening. They did not pull their hand away. The road out of the village was blocked by fallen trees. The archivist stood at the edge of the fog, staring at the mess of wet branches and mud. Fresh breaks showed pale wood beneath dark bark. This had not happened by accident. The rain had been heavy, but not enough for this. They turned back. The shop waited at the end of the road, quiet and still. Smoke did not rise from any chimney now. The village felt held in place, like a breath being kept inside the shop. The air was warm again, too warm. The archivist closed the door and leaned against it for a moment. Their chest felt tight. The thought of leaving had been strong this morning. Pack the notes, call the office, explain that the road was unsafe, but the road was only part of it. The box sat in the storage room, wrapped in its loosened paper. It felt closer than before, though it had not moved. The archivist washed their hands in cold water. They dried them slowly. Each small action felt careful, like stepping across thin ice. They brought tools from their bag, a small knife, tweezers, cotton gloves. The widow's words returned, soft and firm, only kept quiet. The archivist knelt in, fronted the box. "I'm sorry," they said, not sure who they were speaking to. The string came away easily. Old fibers snapped with a dry sound. The paper fell open in layers, releasing a smell of dust and iron. The lid resisted at first. The archivist pressed the knife into the seam and twisted gently. Wood creaked. The sound traveled through the room like a low cry. Then the lid lifted inside. The box was crowded. Small bundles filled the space, wrapped in cloth and paper. Talismans cut from wood and bone lay between them. carved with the same closed-eye symbol. Dark stains marked the cloth. Old blood. Dry and cracked hair was woven through the strings. Long strands, short ones. Some grey dot at the centre lay folded. Paper, thick, handwritten. The archivist did not touch it right away. Their hands trembled. The warmth rose stronger now, steady and deep. They took the paper and unfolded it slowly. The writing changed from line to line. Different hands, different pressure. Some letters neat, others rushed and broken. It told the story in pieces. Soldiers moving through the mountains. Food taken. Homes burned. A warning passed from village to village. Hide or be erased. The paper darkened where tears had fallen. It spoke of a child, a girl too young to understand why the adults would not meet her eyes. She was led away before dawn, wrapped in a blanket, told she was brave, told she would help everyone. The ritual was described, without detail. Only the end. The ground was closed over her while she was still breathing. The archivist's vision blurred. They set the paper down and covered their mouth. The confession went on. The box was made to hold what could not be buried. Her fear, her anger, her need to be seen. Offerings were placed inside to keep her calm. Hair, blood, pieces of the village itself. As long as she was remembered, she would sleep. When she was forgotten, she would wake. The archivists sat back on their heels, breath shaking. They thought of the antiques dealer, his careful hands, his neat shop, the way he had sat upright, waiting. He had tried to sell devotion. The box had answered. That night, the archivist did not turn off the lamp. They lay on the bed above the shop, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. The air felt thick, heavy on there. Skinned up, then they heard it, breathing soft, slow, even it came from below, from the storage room, not knocking, not scratching, breathing. The archivist pressed a pillow over their ears. The sound did not stop. It matched their own breath, as if listening, as if learning. In the morning, people stood outside the shop, not close, not far. They watched from the road, from doorways, from the edge of the fog. No one spoke. The archivist went downstairs. The box was still open. The items inside lay undisturbed. They felt no urge to close it. Time bent again that afternoon. The archivist sat writing notes. The pen moved smoothly. Words formed without effort. When they looked up, the light had shifted. The room was dim. Their hand ached. They read what they had written. It was not catalogue work. It was a memory of cold soil against skin, of a small hand-clenching fabric, a breath turning shallow. The archivist slammed the notebook shut and stood, dizzy. Outside, the villagers had moved closer. A child stood among them, holding an adult's hand. The child looked toward the shop with calm eyes. The archivist understood then. The box was not choosing at random. It chose those who could carry the remembering, those who listened. That evening, the archivist stepped out onto the road. The villagers parted slightly, giving space. An elder bowed. "You opened it," he said. "Yes," the elder nodded. "Then you know." The archivist looked at the faces around them. Tired, quiet, afraid. She does not want revenge. the archivist said. The words felt steady as they left their mouth. She wants to be held in mind. The widow stepped forward, and the cost. The archivist glanced back at the shot. The breathing waited. Everything else, they said. No one argued. As night fell, the fog crept in again, curling around legs and walls. The villagers remained, watching, waiting. The archivist returned inside and sat beside the open box. They reached in and touched one of the cloth bundles. Warm, I'm here, they said. The breathing slowed outside. The villagers did not leave. They stood in the dark, eyes fixed on the shop, waiting for the box to decide, waiting to see who would remember for them next. The villagers gathered at dusk. They stood in a loose circle in the road, faces pale in the fading light. Fog rolled in low, brushing their ankles. No one spoke at first. The only sound was the soft knock from inside the shop, steady now, slow and even. The archivist stepped out and closed the door behind them. That's it, they said. Their voice carried more than they expected. You watch and wait. No one answered. The archivist felt heat press against their back through the door. The wood vibrated, almost gentle. You buried a child, the archivist said. Then you buried the memory. You let others carry it for you. An elder lifted his eyes. They were tired eyes, old eyes. We did what we thought would save everyone, he said. And after? The archivist asked. When it asked to be remembered. Silence. The widow stepped forward. Her hands were folded tight. There must always be one, she said. Someone who knows, someone who listens. The archivist laughed once. It came out sharp. And the rest of you live clean lives. No, the widow said. We live quiet ones. She looked past the archivist, toward the shop. Each keeper lasts a little while, she said. Some years, some months. They grow thin. They forget their own names. They stop sleeping. In the end, they sit and wait. The archivist thought of the antiques dealer, his straight back, his folded hands. You let them die, the archivist said. The elder shook his head. They stay. The difference sat heavy between them. The archivist turned away and went back inside. The heat hit them at once. The box knocked from the storage room. Not loud, not fast. Like a heart in a chest. They knelt and pulled the confession pages closer. Their hands moved on their own now, calm and sure. They read again, names blurred together, lines crossed. Then one line stopped them, a family name, their family name. The letters were faded but clear. The archivist swallowed. Their mouth went dry there. Grandmother's name followed beneath it, written in careful strokes. A note beside it, smaller than the rest. Agreed, the room tilted. The archivist pressed a hand to the floor. They remembered their grandmother's house. The way she kept the windows covered even on bright days. The way she would stop talking when certain stories came close to the village. Some things, she used to say, are carried so others can sleep. The box knocked harder. The archivist crawled closer. The warmth burned now, seeping through cloth and bone and wood. I didn't know, they said. The knocking paused. I know now. The sound returned. Slower images came without warning. A small girl sitting alone, her feet barely touching the ground, her eyes following every sound, every breath. waiting for someone to speak. Her name. Loneliness poured through the archivist's chest. Heavy, quiet, endless. This was not rage, it was waiting. The archivist stood and opened the shop door again. The villagers had not moved. My grandmother, the archivist said. She helped choose. Murmurs rippled through the group. The elder bowed his head. Then you understand, he said. No, the archivist replied. I feel it. The widow stepped closer. Blood binds memory, she said softly. It always has. The archivist looked at the faces around them. Ordinary faces. People who planted fields, fixed roofs, raised children. How many? The archivist asked. The elder hesitated. Enough. The knocking behind them grew louder. The door shook. You. We'll leave if I take it, the archivist said. Yes. And if I don't? The widow's eyes filled. Then it will choose another way. The archivist imagined the box carried from house to house, the knocking growing louder, the memories spilling into people who did not know how to hold them, the ground slick beneath bare feet, breath trapped in dirt. The archivist closed their eyes. Inside the shop, the box knocked faster. Heat pressed like hands against their spine. They felt the child again, not pulling, not pushing. Waiting, the archivist turned back inside. They sat on the floor in front of the box and placed both hands on its sides. The warmth was fierce now, but steady. I can't give you peace, the archivist said, but I can give you company. The knocking slowed. They lifted the box. It was heavier than it looked. Not in weight alone, in pull, in presence. The archivist staggered, then steadied. The villagers watched through the doorway. No one stepped forward. No one stopped them. The archivist carried the box to the back room and sat down with it on their lap. The heat wrapped around them. The knocking faded into a deep, steady thump. A heartbeat, breathing filled the room. Slow, even. The archivist matched it without thinking. Outside, the fog thickened. The villagers began to step back, one by one. Doors closed softly. Lights dimmed inside. The archivist felt memories press in, not all at once. One at a time. Hunger, cold dot. A blanket pulled tight. A voice saying, be brave. Tears slid down the archivist's face. They did not wipe them away. I will remember, they whispered. The box rested against their chest, warm and still. It felt like sinking into deep water. Sound fading. Edges softening. Not peace, but acceptance. And in that quiet, the child's breathing slowed, finely matched. No longer alone. Morning light reaches the village the same way it always has. It slips over the mountain ridge and settles low, soft and grey. The fog still comes and goes. The road still curves like a tired spine. Time has passed, but the place has not moved. A new antique shop stands where the old one once did. Its paint is fresh but already dull. Dust coats the windows. Nothing inside is arranged for sale. No sign hangs on the door. It stays locked most days. People say the owner keeps strange hours in the back room. Behind a thin wooden wall, the archivist sits on a cushion near the floor. They are older now. Their hair shows grey at the temples. Their hands move slower. Their eyes hold less surprise. The box rests in front of them. It looks smaller than it once did. Or maybe the archivist has grown used to its weight. The ritual paper has been replaced many times. The red string is new, tied with care. The room is warm. There is no knocking anymore. Only breathing, slow, even, in and out. The archivist's chest rises and falls to match it. They have learned not to force it, to listen first. They no longer write reports, no lists, no labels. They sit and remember. Some days, memories come gently. A field at dusk, a bowl of thin soup, shared between shaking hands, a song hummed under breath to hide fear. Other days, the memories arrive sharp. Cold soil, nails digging into wood, a child's breath slowing as the earth closes in. The archivist does not push them away. They let the memories pass through and settle, like stones placed carefully, one by one. Outside, life goes on. Children walk to school along the road. They do not play near the shop. They do not ask why. Their parents guide them gently past it, hands firm on small shoulders. Travelers sometimes stop in the village. They notice the quiet, the way doors close softly, the way people avoid one building. Without speaking of it, a few step inside the shop, curious. The archivist greets them politely, offers tea, answers questions about old furniture that is never for sale. Most travelers leave sooner than planned. They say the air feels heavy. They say they had trouble sleeping. They say the place made them think of things they did not want to remember. The archivist watches them go, calm and understanding. The box does not react at night. The archivist sleeps in the back room. They dream less now. When they do dream, the child sits nearby, not trapped, not afraid. Sometimes she asks questions. Sometimes she only listens. The archivist answers when they can. When they cannot, they sit quietly. That is enough. Years pass like slow weather. The archivist's body grows thinner. Their steps shorten. Some mornings, their hands shake as they tie the string around the box. The villagers notice. They bring food and leave it at the door. They bow. They do not ask questions. The widow visits once, her back bent, her hair fully white. "You've carried it well," she says. The archivist nods. "It carries me too." They share tea in silence. The breathing in the room stays calm. When the widow leaves, she does not look back. One winter, snow comes early. It piles against the shop walls and softens every sound. The mountains disappear again, wrapped in white. The archivist feels tired. In a way they have not before. They sit longer. They sleep more. Their breath grows shallow. The box stays warm. One night, the archivist wakes before dawn. The room is dark. The breathing is steady. They sit up slowly and straighten their back. They smooth their clothes, fold their hands on their knees. They bow to the box. "I'm still here," they whisper. The breathing matches them, gentle and full. The archivist closes their eyes. Morning comes. The fog lifts late that day. A villager passing the shop noticed us. The door open. Light spills onto the road. They step inside and see the archivist sitting upright in the back room. hands folded, eyes closed. Peaceful, the box rests against their chest. The villager bows low and steps back out. Word moves quietly by. Evening, the village gathers. No one cries loudly. No one wails. They know this ending. They wash the archivist's body with warm water, dress them in clean clothes, set them back in the room where they sat so often. The box is wrapped carefully. This time, there is no knocking, no heat that startles, only warmth like a living thing at rest. They carry the box together, far beyond the edge of the village, higher into the mountains. The ground is cold, the soil heavy. They dig deeper than before, much deeper. The elder places the box inside. The widow lays fresh ritual paper over it, red string tied firm. The child's breathing is still. The archivist's name is spoken once, then the earth closes. When? The grave is filled. The mountain is quiet, not empty. The villagers stand for a long time before turning back. In the days that follow, the village feels lighter, not joyful, not forgiven, but steady. The shop remains empty. Dust gathers on the windows. Life continues, and deep beneath the mountain, the box rests, full and held, listening no longer alone. For a while the silence keeps.